Okay, this will be a quicker video than most, audio only, I think. I'm going to be discussing the differences between education, intelligence, and wisdom. And then I'm going to look at how censorship ties into all of that. So, to start, we know that there's a wide spectrum of education out there. We could describe education as formal, informal, truthful, or manipulative. I could break education down into any number of categories, but eventually we would see some crossover between those categories. So the point is that education is a broad term. All right? The most important thing to recognize here is that education consists of all the things that you learn. And I do mean all of it. Okay, your education is ultimately all the information that went into your head from the day you were born until this moment. Your education includes all of the information or data that your senses have gathered in your lifetime, whether that data be just the light that comes into your eyes, or the sounds in nature, or written and spoken words. But there's no guarantee that that information is correct. The term education does not imply anything about the quality of the information that is being communicated. In other words, nothing about the term education implies that someone is teaching or learning objective information. You can watch a terrible movie for 3 hours and learn nothing useful except that the movie was terrible. You could also listen to a formal educator and learn outdated science. You could even listen to a manipulative or misleading content creator, which still technically falls into the category of education. This is where intelligence comes in. A person who has a lot of random information but has no idea how to use it is not said to be intelligent, even if that information is of good quality. Intelligence is the ability to decipher the good information from the bad in order to make it useful to yourself or society as a whole. But what about wisdom? Where does wisdom come into play in all of this? Well, wisdom is enabled by high levels of intelligence. Wisdom is the end result of not only deciphering the good information from the bad, but also having a deeper understanding of why the bad information came to be in the first place. But why does this make you wise? Well, let's imagine a perfect society, like a utopia. In a utopia, there are no problems. Problems arise when we don't have the right solutions, and the right solutions are provided by good information. Problems persist when we persistently fail to decipher the good information from the bad information, and then use that bad information to come up with solutions to those problems. So, in a utopia where there are no problems, there can be no bad information. Or, at the very least, all the individuals must be intelligent enough to dismiss the bad information as it develops. Now, imagine a society that is dominated by bad information and persistent problems, not unlike our own. The existence of this bad information, in conjunction with a lack of the intelligence needed to dismiss it, will guarantee persistent problems in a society. Again, problems persist when bad information is used to find solutions to problems. If good information is used to find solutions, then the problems are solved. So, if one were to attempt to solve a persistent problem with good information, they must first prove that the current solutions are based on bad information. In other words, the bad information can become a problem itself when the people in charge of finding solutions are unwilling to accept the good information. Or worse yet, they start to spread the bad information. In a perfect world, we could simply remove this bad information from everyone's brains with the click of a button. But bad information is not so easily removed in an imperfect world. This is especially true when problems have been persisting and compounding for decades. You cannot simply censor the bad information in hopes that the problem will disappear. You must first develop intelligence so that people can decipher the good information from the bad on their own, so that their solutions actually solve the problems. It is this phenomenon that ultimately defines wisdom. Wisdom is what enables a person to reverse engineer the entire problem back to the original catalyst and then communicate that process to others. But a wise person also knows that if you try to jump straight to the original catalyst without reversing the indoctrination of bad information, then that bad information and the accompanying problems will persist. After all, the bad information lives inside us. Right? The carriers of the bad information are human brains. They don't just disappear overnight. And even if you try to make them disappear overnight, you create a bigger mess than you started with. No amount of censorship is going to keep this bad information from spreading by word of mouth or in these online echo chambers. In other words, only a lazy fool will try to censor their way out of a problem. As I said, wisdom is the end result of not only deciphering the good information from the bad, but also having a deeper understanding of why that bad information came to be in the first place. If you don't understand what led people to be indoctrinated with the bad information, you can't possibly change their mind. In effect, if your only solution to a problem is to remove the individuals exhibiting problematic behavior, like spreading misinformation, for example, then you never address why the problematic behavior developed in the first place. You attach the behavior to the individual, when you should have attached the behavior to the individual's environment. You surrender your ability to solve problematic behavior when you rely on removing the most recent symptomatic individual from a long cycle of bad behavior. This actually isn't a solution at all. It's just treatment. Again, removing problematic individuals does not address why the problematic behavior is developing. On the other hand, if you empathize and seek to understand why and how people fell victim to the bad information, you can find the common ground needed to reverse the indoctrination. If you just censor the bad information, then the followers of that bad information never learn anything. And then that bad information is indoctrinated directly into the next generation, along with the problems. The only way to remove bad information and the accompanying problems from a society is for wise people to backtrack through every problematic symptom to the catalyst, the original catalyst. And then they must communicate this process so that others may acquire the same intelligence and wisdom themselves. No other solution will do. You cannot generate effective solutions to problems with shortcuts, okay? Again, these shortcuts really are just treatments, which will persist indefinitely, or at least until the problems compound beyond containment. If your solution to your problem is to censor your opposition without a complete understanding of why they came to their beliefs, you are just making the problems worse. Censoring your opposition will make them bitter. They will resort to echo chambers. These echo chambers breed radicalism. When your opposition becomes more radical, they then seek the same control over you that you sought over them. And before you know it, your opposition is censoring you. Now you're in an echo chamber, and now you're getting radicalized. This process repeats until you live in an authoritarian hellscape filled with compounding problems. I mean, I like to call this process authoritarian leapfrog. Wisdom is what enables you to understand that the end result of censorship is half-assed solutions that only treat problems in the short term, without addressing the problems in the long term that ultimately compound. Only a fool will depend on improvising treatments to problems in real time, because eventually those problems get very big. Do not be a fool. Don't criticize your ideological opposition. Instead, seek to empathize with and understand why they believe what they do. And then you can come up with inclusive solutions that address the catalysts driving their beliefs. You cannot change someone's mind without understanding their mind. Censorship skips the entire process of understanding. When collective wisdom diminishes too much, we stop solving problems. When we stop solving problems, we start killing each other. I like living, and you probably do too. Let's not kill each other anymore, okay? Thank you for listening.